at producing a truck at roughly the same price as a diesel engine truck on your end. So how are you viewing that?
I would say there, first of all, two things wrong in that statement, and I respect Elon Musk, but number one, the truck he presented to the markets in the United States, unfortunately, is too long for Europe, so he needs to redesign that truck, and I haven't seen any design from Europe. Secondly, to sell a truck at the same price as a diesel truck, in my opinion, is even for Tesla a little bit a push. I haven't seen that in their pricing in the United States. He wants to sell in the United States since years tons of electric trucks, and he hasn't done it. In fact, we outsold him, I would say, a factor of 15 to 1 in California in 2023. So I welcome competition, and I'm looking forward to see him in Europe.
Thanks for joining us once again. This is Greg. Behind us is what's called the Lincoln Memorial. This is one of the most famous memorials on the mall in Washington, D.C., where we're at today. I also wanted to note we're right next to the reflecting pond, as you can see, which is kind of a duck heaven at this point. So the reason for our show today is a continuation of our series on the destructive impacts on both the EU and Germany of the arrival of the Tesla Semi. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. If this is your first time, welcome. If you're a repeat visitor, welcome back. We also want to thank our Patreon supporters. If you enjoyed the show, would like some better ideas on investing and trading, please join us on Patreon. Now, directly behind me, as I shared, is the Lincoln Memorial. It was commissioned in 1868. They started building in 1912. And they finished it in 1922. The building is 90 feet tall and goes down 67 feet and has its own museum beneath and the only bathroom on the mall. So as you'll notice, there's some pillars in front, and a trivia question for our viewers today is, why are the pillars there? There are 36 in all that go around the entire outside of the building. So the issue that we're covering today is, why is it that the head of Daimler Trucks, Martin Daum, has such hatred for the folks at Tesla, in particular the Tesla semi-truck? So the answer we want to provide today is the fact that the Tesla semi-truck, delivering in the manner that Elon has described, which includes the same cost as a regular semi, as well as the range or 500 miles that it can currently do, pretty much will bankrupt Daimler Trucks. One of the issues with the Tesla Semi, or the many issues, is that the Tesla Semi represents a solution that nobody else in the world offers. One example of this is that in Canada, there's an entity called Loblaws. It's a grocery chain that's nationwide in China, in Canada. Loblaws, after Tesla introduced its truck in 2017, they did not want to wait for Elon to be ready to go. So in around 2019, BYD offered its truck solution to Loblaws, and a deal was struck, including the opening of an assembly facility in Canada to address all the fleet needs that Loblaws may have. The problem they ran into is something called the winter in Canada. The truck coming from China that was being assembled in Canada, after its 125, 150 mile range, when you got into the colder months in Canada, the batteries were so cold that it cut the range of the vehicle in half. So pretty much you might be able to get a truck out from the distribution facility to your grocery stores, but those vehicles would have to be charged up again before they could go to any other stores or make it back to the distribution facility. So as a result, Loblaws canceled the contract with BYD and then elected to switch over to the Daimler e-Cascadia. So we have basically 4 more points that we wanted to cover today, addressing this entire issue. The first issue we wanted to cover is that, yes, Daimler's longest range vehicle is what I think of as a Class 7 truck called the e-Actos. While Tesla is able to move 80,000 pounds and have a freight weight that's similar or the same to a diesel truck, Daimler can't match up to that. Their vehicle offers 300 miles of range, and their battery solution is heavier than Tesla's and more costly, so therefore they can't meet the Tesla competition in the form of how this is going. Number 2, as is the case currently with VW, as you know, VW just announced they're going to be doing a large number of layoffs at their headquarters. The problem in Wolfsburg, the problem is that now house prices are dropping, sales of all the businesses there are having problems, and there are a lot of sort of auto-related industry executives that don't have job options because layoffs are happening at the other major makes in Germany as well. The third issue that comes up is that 50% of all the activity relative to sort of automobiles and trucks in Germany represent sort of the primary work product of the country. So as Daimler starts losing truck sales and car sales to Tesla, it's devastating impact on the company and the growth of jobs. Next, I wanted to review this relative silence from Elon. As you noticed, we have regular comments from Martin Down regarding the inability of Tesla to compete with them globally in a number of ways. Tesla has deliberately focused on the Class 8 vehicle primarily because they represent 6% of the vehicles on the road, but 25% of the pollution. And this is why the EU and others have been focused on this area. The next thing that I would like to review is that right now there's a place called Norway. And Norway, unlike other places in California and other cities, has decided that it will switch away and over to EVs of different types by 2030 and are helping to pay for charging facilities to get this done. And so, given how well the Tesla relationship has worked out, we expect the truck to be huge in Norway and replicated in a lot of other places. So Herr Daum, who is the CEO of Daimler Trucks, the comparison between the Tesla Semi and the Daimler Freightliner electric trucks reveals that Tesla's almost getting 600 miles from its largest truck and pack. This means that Tesla could cut its pack in half to 300 miles and still cut the pack cost in half, bringing the Semi in closer to $200,000. This is not the $100K currently on average for a diesel truck, but it is in shouting distance. The Daimler e-Actos for Europe and East Cascadia for the USA are running at approximately $400,000 per vehicle. The next point, number 5, is that Norway is a really important sort of guidepost. Right now, 20% of all the vehicles in Norway are Model Ys from Tesla, and then there are other types of Teslas that are selling in large numbers. And so that harsh environment, particularly during the winter months when the average temperature is 0 degrees Fahrenheit, is an important testing ground for all vehicles in the EV space. And then the fact that temperatures get to that 10, 20 below zero further is a test for all vehicles. So if one can do well, make it in Norway effectively, I think that really sets up for success in a lot of other places. A 50% cost advantage will make it hard for other makers to win against Tesla. When looking at costs, one could argue that diesel is more efficient, as Mr. Daum has, but there are restrictions on diesel operations during weekends due to the noise and pollution. As a result, an electric solution will allow at least 2 more days a week of delivery operations to occur, which no doubt will prove to be more efficient with 7 days versus 5 days. So the answer is that bottom line is that the vehicles like the Tesla Semi will prove to be more cost effective because you can run it longer periods. I didn't see anything about whether or not night operations would be allowed, but in theory, if the limiter is pollution, noise, and noise, one could see operations expanding into nighttime hours, particularly when you can do deliveries without having to deal with customers in the spaces into which the trucks have to go. I'll next move on to the answer to the trivia question. The reason there are 36 pillars in front of the Lincoln Memorial is that it turns out that that's the number of states in the Union when Lincoln was president. So there are other fun facts that are lurking, and I highly recommend you check it out. Most people who come to DC actually take time to see it, and will likely see it on the inbound ramps. So overall, the logic of sort of the war between Tesla and Daimler-Benz / Freightliner unit and even Scandia and the others focuses on the fact that the EU was having difficulty finding a way to reduce pollution coming from the largest Class A trucks. The solution that Tesla is providing sort of shows that there's possibility for it to work, and this is in conflict with what the large makes were telling the EU was possible. Nonetheless, the EU has been imposing fines for lack of electric transition, and those fines are scheduled to get even worse in 2025. So we're expecting that there will be a concerted effort by all the major truck manufacturers to manage this problem better. One other thing about Daimler that I find strange / interesting is economies of scale. Tesla has the benefit of large numbers of battery packs going to both cars and trucks, as well as the research dollars behind it. Yes, Daimler trucks and cars will share ownership by about 35%, but now we have R&D budgets only being spread over 500,000 vehicles when you used to have the R&D that was being done spread over, let's say, 10 or 15 million vehicles being produced a year. So there's still a lot of work to be done for Daimler to close the performance gap against Tesla and therefore not get wiped out. I believe the way things are looking is that if Tesla can bring in a 250 mile in range, $180,000 vehicle, that would pretty much destroy a large number of competitors and result in a huge number of job losses at those entities as well. So we look forward to keeping you posted on this, and we'll keep you updated. So finally today we'll do our health tips. Just a reminder of your 25 leg lifts per day in the morning and a 20-minute walk daily at least as a way to help manage health effects in a lot of different ways. And then finally, just a reminder, it's been recommended by one of our kidney docs that you consider a 3 times a week no meat approach. There's a new idea that I learned about recently that you might also want to consider, and that is it turns out that if you have, let's say, the difference between a fruit and a vegetable is that vegetables have a longer cycle for digestion in the stomach. That longer cycle means that you're getting nutrients delivered more slowly. When you're mixing a lot of sugars along with vegetables in the form of, let's say, fruit, you can have difficulties where there's certain food that will digest quickly and enter the bloodstream in the form of the fruit, but be digested and enter the bloodstream more slowly if it's vegetables. So the recommendation is to try to separate the two in some amount of time, because by mixing the two and having different gestation schedules, it makes it less efficient as you're digesting that food, and therefore you'll potentially get bloating and gas from that activity. So we look forward to your comments on this. Once again, thanks for joining us. Just au revoir, le hitro hoda hafez, здравствуйте, ni hao ma, namaste, arrivederci. And in Jamaica we say enough respect, walk good man, namaste.